to ensure the security in the system. So now in this session, I'll cover that cryptographic issues aspects, and there is another portion that distributed consensus algorithm. So that will be covered by Professor Singh. So now in this session, let me recap this whole cryptographic primitives that most of you already know, but maybe we can go through very quickly what are relevant to the blockchain technology. So now cryptography, you already know, it is nothing but the art of writing anything in secret characters. And now the goals, cryptography goals are that whenever Alice is sending or communicating something to Bob, or sending some message to Bob, the content of that message should be confidential. That means any attacker should not get the actual content of the information to be sent by Alice to Bob. Okay, so confidentiality should be achieved. And second one is that you have to ensure the the identity of the sender and receiver. So in this case, of course, no attacker should pose himself or herself as the sender. So real identity of the sender and receiver should be ensured. So authentication should be preserved. Uh, Whenever you are sending some information, that information, the content of the information should not be tempered or modified by any attacker. So integrity of the message content should be ensured. Uh, and non-repudiation. So so whenever you have already done something in the system, you cannot deny it later. That means, for example, you have sent already some information to Bob, message to Bob, and later you are saying that, oh, no, I have not sent anything. So that kind of denial should not be possible in case of this cryptographic system. So so non-repudiation should be ensured. Now in crypto system, what happens that suppose Alice is sending some information, some message to Bob, and the original message is called plain text, and whenever it would be sent to over this insecure network, that over this public network, that anyone can intercept this message. So what should be done? That plain text should be converted into another form called ciphertext, and the plain text should be converted into another form, ciphertext, by using some encryption algorithm. And this ciphertext should be transmitted over insecure channel, so that if attacker gets to know about this information, but they won't be able to get the actual content, because it has been already converted into another form. So from this another form, attacker won't be able to know the exact content of the message. And this ciphertext should be transmitted over insecure network, and after receiving this one, the receiver will apply another algorithm called decryption algorithm, and that will help him to get back the original message. So although you are sending this message to Bob over this insecure network, but because of the conversion into ciphertext, it would be very difficult for attackers to get into or get to know about the actual content. So this way you can ensure the confidentiality of the information. And here you already know that in case of encryption and decryption, although the encryption and decryption algorithms, those are completely public, right? Anyone knows which algorithm Alice is using or which algorithm Bob is going to use. But the key, some information, the key information that to be used during the encryption algorithm and that to be used during decryption algorithm execution, this information is completely private. Alice knows the key, Bob knows the key, and this key will not be known to anyone else in the world. So that's why if Alice knows this key or Bob knows this key, then only Alice and Bob will be able to communicate among themselves. Okay, that should be made completely secret. Now, depending on what kind of keys to be used, the cryptography can be divided into two. One is that symmetric key cryptography, another is that asymmetric key cryptography. Now, in case of symmetric key cryptography, what happens that whatever Alice and Bob, these two keys, this key is being used by key Alice and this key is being used by Bob. Both keys are same. So they decryption. This is called symmetric key algorithm. Now, in case of asymmetric, what happens? The same key will not be used during encryption and decryption. What to be done? In this case, I have to follow, or any individual should have to follow some algorithm to generate one public private key pair, a pair of keys. So the sender will have a pair of key, recipient also will have pair of keys, and they are completely independent. So suppose I have some pair of keys, I am sender and you are recipient. So if I am sender and I have this pair of key, what I can do? So the beauty of this asymmetric key cryptography is that when I do encryption to convert this plain text into ciphertext, I will use one key. And during the decryption by the recipient will use the other key. So for example, if I use in the encryption the public key, then decryption will happen by using private key, and vice versa. So if I encrypt the message with private key, then the decryption will be possible by using the corresponding public key. Okay, that thing will happen in this case. So you can understand the keys are different. So now if I ask you that, you know that sender will have one private key public key pair. For example, I am sender and I have the public key and private key. So I can say that PR, okay, PR is my public key, and okay, maybe PP same. Okay, maybe I can say PR is my private key and SR is my private key. Okay, PR is my public key and SR is my secret key or private key. And for you, suppose your name is XYZ, so I can say that PX is your public key and SX is your private key. So now tell me that if I want to send one message to you, okay, before that I can mention that whenever I have this pair of keys, I will keep this key completely secret, but I will disclose this key in the world. So anyone in the world can know about my public key, but only I will be knowing about my private key. No one else can know about my private key. Similarly, in case of XYZ, everyone in the world knows the public key of XYZ, but the private key of XYZ will be known only by XYZ. Okay, so now can anyone tell me that whenever I want to send some message to you, to XYZ, for example, so I can take one name, for example, from here I can take, okay, maybe Debojit Mondal. Okay, so if I so for me I have one public key private key. For Debojit also, he has also one public key private key, and everyone in the world knows my public key, everyone in the world knows Debojit's public key. Now suppose I want to send some information to Debojit, and for that I want to encrypt. So which key I will use here so that Debojit will be able to decrypt that?
Public key, sir.
Yes. So whenever I want to send some information to Debojit, I have to use here Debojit's public key, because Debojit's public key is known by Debojit. What key Debojit will use?
Sir, private key.
Yes. So Debojit knows the private key. Only Debojit knows the private key. No one else know. So Debojit can be able to decrypt it by using his private key. So encryption will be done by Debojit's public key. Decryption will be done by Debojit's private key. And Debojit will get back the public key, the plain text. So therefore you can understand, so here a pair of keys will be used, and this pair of keys, so everyone will have independent pair of keys. Okay, my pair of keys can be different from your private pair of keys. But in this case, you can understand the key should be same for me as well as for you whenever we want to communicate. So in this case, there is a problem that both parties should have to agree on the same key. That is a major problem in this symmetric key. But in case of asymmetric key, there is no such problem. Now, this is that I have told, and this is I have told that here you are using same key, but here using the pair of keys. That means if you encrypt with public, decrypt with private. If you encrypt with private, decrypt with public. Now, in case of symmetric key cryptography, there were a lot of traditional encryption algorithms, and some of the encryption algorithms, for example, the first one was Keyser cipher. So what happens in this case? Every character, so for example, you are sending some text to your friend, so the encryption will substitute every alphabet by another alphabet. Okay, so for example, A can be replaced by D, B can be replaced by E, C can be replaced by F. So you can understand the difference between the A can be replaced by D. So A, B, C, D. So every alphabet will be replaced by another alphabet 4 places down the list. B will be substituted by E, C will be substituted by A. List and also use that the 8 places down the list. So this value will act as the key, right? Symmetric key. I'm talking about symmetric key. The same key to be used by the sender and the recipient. So here you can find the key is being here. If it is 4 places down, so 4 is the key. And when the recipient will receive this encrypted key, then the same key, sorry, encrypted message or cipher text, then the same key will be used to substitute the characters or alphabets in the cipher text by the alphabets in the original text. So for example, here you have to replace all this alphabet by another alphabet 4 places up the list. Okay, so in this case, you can understand that encryption will be done by using the key value 4, and decryption also will be done by following the same. That means the reverse algorithm, the algorithm in the reverse order, but following the same value as the key. But later, I'm talking about symmetric key algorithm where the same key will be used by sender and as well as the recipient. So I'm not talking about the detailed operations within the algorithm, but at the high level you can see that in DS algorithm, so whatever message I have, that message I can divide into multiple blocks, and every block I can follow this algorithm to get its corresponding cipher text. So if I have 5 such blocks, so I will apply this process 5 times for 5 blocks, and I will get 5 such cipher. But here it is block cipher. So block wise you are doing encryption, and you can find that it involves some kind of permutation. So whatever information you have to apply some kind of permutation. Then you have to pass through multiple rounds, and every round should have this kind of operation. So you can find that every round should have some kind of XOR kind of operation, bitwise XOR, and you have to swap this left hand side part and right hand side part of your data. So this kind of complex operation to be performed in every round, and those operations to be supported by this secret key. In case of symmetric algorithm, key encryption, you know that same key will be used by sender and receiver, so that key will be given as the input during this operation. And finally, whatever result you are getting, you do another permutation, and then you get the corresponding ciphertext. But here it is observed that in 1999 it was attacked in 22 hours. Although brute force attack, so if the key size is 64 bits, but here that in the operation some bits will be ignored actually. So actual key size becomes actually 56 that you are actually using in your operation. Although you are providing 64 bits, but some keys, 8 bits you are just ignoring. So you are actually working on 56 bits as the key. So therefore, if you do not know, if attacker doesn't know about the key, so attacker can try with all possible keys, because attacker knows that 56 is the size of the key to be used actually in the algorithm. So attackers can try with all possible keys. And in any case, if attacker gets success, then attacker can get the original message. So therefore, attack can happen if attacker can apply this brute force technique. And it is observed that in 22 hours in 1999, it has been attacked. So therefore, another version, its advanced version, was introduced, and where different variants of the algorithms was given. So here in the previous case, you find that the number of rounds should be 16, it is fixed, but it's in its advanced version, the number of rounds can be many, can be 10, can be 12, can be 14. If you use 10 rounds, you have to use this size key. If you follow 12 rounds, you have to consider this size keys. So there are different variants of the algorithm, and the algorithm also passes through a number of rounds, but the operations within the rounds are made so complex compared to the only DS algorithm. So this way, the strength of the algorithm is being improved. Okay, and it is still a popular symmetric key algorithm, and people are using these things. But remember that whatever algorithms I have mentioned in case of AES and DES, the crucial operations, very important operations that are followed is that substitution and permutation. For example, substitution means, as I told, that one character can be substituted by another character, right? Or one bit can be substituted by another bit, whatever. And in case of permutation, you already know. So now, whatever operations you have in your algorithm, those primarily follow two basic operations. One is that substitution, another is that permutation. So here you can find permutation is already there, but whenever you perform this operation, this function in the round, here you can find some kind of substitution operation. For example, when you read this one, you find some kind of S boxes. Okay, S boxes will allow you to do some kind of substitution. So those operations are very crucial here. Also, in this case, if you go, if you dive into the depth, you can find that there are the basic operations actually either substitution or permutation here. So therefore, and that kind of based on this operation, that kind of network already introduced in 1949 by Shannon. And today, whatever modern cipher you are using, the encryption algorithms you are using, those actually following that substitution permutation network. And these network are based on two primitive operations, that is substitution and permutation. Okay, and these actually substitution is sometimes called confusion, permutation called diffusion, because confusion means you are confusing the attacker, because you have substituted one character by another one, so you are making confusion, or you are producing you are introducing some kind of confusion to attackers. On the other side, since you are applying some kind of permutation, so you are the Feastel cipher actually implements this SP network. Okay, this is the Feastel cipher that implements that SP network, and today's most of the symmetric key block ciphers, okay, they are following this Feastel structure, and those are basically based on two basic operations, permutation and substitution. Okay, voice is breaking. Okay, maybe
Sir, now it's okay, sir.
now it's okay. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there are a few questions. So maybe are the two private key different? Yes. So okay, here there is question: are these two private keys different? So if you are talking about asymmetric key, of course the private keys are different. So I can have one private key public key pair. You can have another private key public key pair, and my private key is different from your private key. But if you are talking about symmetric key cryptography, then the key will be same. How will we come to know the message is encrypted using symmetric or asymmetric? Okay. You know that thing you can. It's very easy to communicate with the recipient, right? So you can. Maybe I would suggest that, okay, put one flag, annotate with one flag, and mention that, okay, flag is 0 means asymmetric, flag is 1 means symmetric. Okay, so something you can. It's not very difficult thing to inform about. Okay. So because which algorithm actually you are using, that should be known. Okay, everyone knows that which algorithm actually the system is using. Whenever system is applying some kind of encryption decryption, we know that, okay, this system is following this algorithm. I know that this system following this algorithm. So it is known. So in blockchain, what kind of encryption is it following, symmetric or asymmetric? You already know. It is following asymmetric key cryptography. Okay, so there is no confusion about that. So you already know. So therefore, everyone will follow the same thing. Okay, sometimes voice is breaking. Okay, let me connect again. So actually, I'm using my mobile connection suddenly. Let me try with my institute internet connection. Let's see. If it works, then I will move to that network. Okay, am I audible now?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Okay, now let me start with another part. So now moving to asymmetric one. Okay, so whatever I have told that DES or AES all actually follow that blockwise encryption, and they are symmetric key algorithm. So all are, so sender and recipient both are using same key during encryption as well as during decryption. Okay, now let's highlight what is the problem in case of encryption. So in case of sender, the key that is being used in the encryption algorithm to encrypt the plain text, the same key will be used in the decryption algorithm on the cipher text to get back the plain text. Okay, so if the same key will be used, now let's see if in the system we have only two users. So of course single key, and that key should be used in the encryption by Alice and in the decryption by Bob. But if there are three users, you can find three different keys should be there. One key should be agreed between Alice and Charles. Another key should be agreed between these two. Another key should be used between these two. If there are 4 users, you need to have 6 possible keys, because 6 possible pairs you can find. Pairs means sender and recipient pairs. Now 6 users, 15 keys, and 100, and you can find, so order of n square. So therefore, when in the system we have n number of users, the number of keys that required for the communication between the users is order of n square. And so one is that maintenance of key distribution is the problem. Key distribution is the problem, is the challenges. So for example, I do not know anyone, for example, in the system, and suddenly I find that I want to communicate with user 5. So I do not know user 5, or even I know, but how can we agree on a given, either on using a phone, mobile phone, or maybe through mail, but that is also insecure. Attacker can get to know about that. So how can we agree on a common key that should be known to me and the recipient only? No one else in the world should get to know about the key. How can we do that? So key distribution is the biggest problem in symmetric key cryptography. So therefore, the first algorithm that solves this problem is called RSA algorithm. And in this algorithm, this is the first algorithm for asymmetric key cryptography. Okay, and let's see how here this can be. So you know that in case of asymmetric, if I want to send information to, for example, again I can take the name Ramachandra. So what I have to do, I need to use only Ramachandra's public key, nothing else. And Ramachandra will use his private key because he knows his private key. So he will use private key to decrypt the message, ciphertext. So there is no issue of this kind of key distribution. There is no need to have some kind of agreement before on the same key. Okay, we do not need for that. So it solves key distribution problem. Now let's see how this RSA algorithm works. I can explain through example. So what we have to do, suppose you know that in this case, if I am the sender and Dr. Ramachandra is the recipient, so what I'll do, I will follow this algorithm to generate my public key private key pair. Dr. Ramachandra also will follow this algorithm to get his private key public key pair. Now let's see how Dr. Ramachandra will use this algorithm to get his public key private key pair. Let's see. So now suppose Dr. Ramachandra is using this algorithm. So Dr. Ramachandra will first assume 2 large prime numbers. Okay, for simplicity we have taken a very small prime number, but it should be to ensure the security. Dr. Ramachandra should assume very large prime numbers, and then that should be multiplied. So 35 is the result. 5 into 7, 35. At the same time, p minus 1 and q minus 1 also should be computed, and that is called z. So p minus 1 means 5 minus 1, 4. Q minus 1 means 7 minus 1, 6. So 24. Now, Dr. Ramachandra will consider one value that is relatively co-prime with 24. There is no common factor, you see. Okay, so relatively prime, they are relatively prime. Okay, so therefore you have to choose one E such that they are relatively prime. So 5. Once Dr. Ramachandra has considered 5 for E, then he has to get another value such that the multiplication of that value with E should be congruent with 1 under modulo 24 modulo n modulo z, sorry, modulo z, under modulo z. It means that 29 will act as inverse of 5 under modulo 24 arithmetic. Okay, so you can find the inverse of 5 under mod 24 is 29. So now, after doing this computation, this will be Dr. Ramachandra's public key, that E and 35. This is the public key, and 29 and 35 together will be considered as the private key. So now this way, Dr. Ramachandra can compute his public key and private key pair. Now, if this is public key, so Dr. Ramachandra will publish it, will disclose it to everyone in the world. So everyone in the world will get to know about this information. But this one, the private key information, only Ramachandra knows. No one else knows this. Now, suppose I want to transfer, I want to send some information, some message to Dr. Ramachandra. I want to share some information. What I'll do, I will encrypt. So I want to send this LOVE. Okay. So I want to send LOVE message to Dr. Ramachandra. So what I'll do, I know Dr. Ramachandra's public key. So I will apply this computation. So m to the power e means 5. M to the power e mod n. So first I will convert these into the numerical representation based on their position in the alphabet list. And then I will compute 12 to the power 5 mod 35. So I'll get these info values. So this is my ciphertext. Okay, so this ciphertext I will transmit over insecure network. Attacker can get to know about this, but they won't be able to get back the original one. So when Dr. Ramachandra will receive this ciphertext, then Dr. Ramachandra will apply, because Dr. Ramachandra knows his private key. So Dr. Ramachandra will apply that 17 to the power, whatever he will apply, that to the power 29 mod 35. Since only this information is known to Dr. Ramachandra, so Dr. Ramachandra will be able to get back the original this way. And no one else will get to know. And in this case, you can understand that Dr. Ramachandra can follow this algorithm and can generate the public key private key pair. He doesn't need to be dependent on anyone else. But in case of symmetric, the situation is different. Whenever the communication should happen, before communication, sender and recipient should agree on a same key, and that is the major problem. But in this case, there is no dependency. Okay, so therefore, this is asymmetric key encryption, and Bitcoin uses asymmetric key encryption. Now, interesting thing is that, so here you can find, so if Alice wants to send something to Bob, so it should be encrypted using Bob's public key, so that Bob can use his own secret key or private key to decrypt. Similarly, when Bob will send something to Alice, so Bob will encrypt using Alice's public key. so that Alice can decrypt it using her own private key. But the problem is that this asymmetric key encryption algorithm or decryption algorithm, it's really slow. It's that 100 times slower than the symmetric one in software and 1,000 times slower in hardware if it is implemented. So now if it's not that means very slow, it needs a lot of computation. So what is the solution? Can we combine these two, symmetric and asymmetric, together? Yes. What we can do, suppose Alice wants to send some information to Bob. But if Alice encrypts the message using Bob's public key, then of course asymmetric key algorithm, so that encryption will take a lot of time because this is very slow. So therefore, can we go for symmetric one? But for symmetric one, we need some kind of key agreement, the common key. So let's follow something to get the common key. What can be done? Alice can generate some kind of random session key. So suppose for this 1 hour, I will generate one key. So this random key can be considered by Alice, and that random key can be encrypted by Bob's public key. That means by following asymmetric key algorithm. Since the key size is very small, so although you are following asymmetric key encryption algorithm, but it doesn't take much time because the size of the key is very small. The actual size of the message is very small. It doesn't make significant effect in the although asymmetric key encryption is slow. Now, after sending it to Bob, Bob will apply its own private key to get back the session key. And now this way that session key will be known or will be agreed by both the parties. So this key can be used now in the encryption decryption by following symmetric key algorithm. And since symmetric key algorithm is faster, so the large message can be encrypted following symmetric algorithm using this key K, because K is already known to Alice and Bob, so there is no problem. So this is the hybrid crypto system. Maybe I can take questions later after completion of this. And now coming to digital signature. Okay. Okay, just a few seconds, maybe. I'm just coming back in a few seconds, okay? Just. Hello. Yes. Okay, so I think I am audible. Am I audible to all of you? Yes. Okay. So now coming to digital signature. So now, whenever we do signature on any physical paper, so what is the purpose? Purpose is that whenever I am signing, it means that the document should not be altered. Anyone cannot alter the content of the document because I have already signed. These are the objectives, right? Uh, Whenever I have signed, I cannot deny it later. So it should be non-repudiable. Once I sign on one paper, the same signature I cannot use in other papers. So the signature cannot be reusable. Whenever I sign somewhere, that signature cannot be forged by any attacker. That's why I make it very complex, right? The signature. And it should provide the authenticity of the document also. If I sign, then it means that I am going to give, I have given the declaration or something, the document is authentic. Okay. So all these are my objectives whenever I am doing some signature. But in reality, we can do whatever we want, right? Although we are saying it should be unalterable, but anyone can alter. Every attack is possible. So now the question is that can we move towards the its the in the digital form? We go for signatures, but in the form of digital signature, and aiming to achieve all these goals. Let's see how we can do that digital signature. Very simple. We can follow asymmetric key cryptography. As I told already, for Bob, for example, Bob has public key, private key pair, and all public key will be known to everyone in the world, and private key should be kept secret. Similarly, Alice should have public key, private key pair, but the public key will be made available to everyone, but the private key should be kept completely secret to Alice. Now, what Alice will do if Alice wants to sign something? Suppose this is the message and Alice wants to sign this message. So what Alice will do? Alice will encrypt by using her private key. So if Alice encrypt with her private key, then it will be considered as Alice has signed that document, because Alice knows the private key only. Therefore, whenever this is decrypted by the private key of Alice, it means the decryption is being done by Alice only. So it can be considered as the digital signature of Alice. So anyone can verify. Anyone in the world can verify whether this message has been signed by Alice or not. So all the other member, what they can do, they can decrypt. That means after encryption, the ciphertext will be C, and that ciphertext can be decrypted by using Alice public key. So anyone in the world can decrypt this one by Alice public key, because public key is known to them. So if they are successful in decrypting that ciphertext by using Alice public key, it is clear that this ciphertext is being encrypted by the corresponding private key of Alice. And since Alice only knows her private key, so that encryption is being done only by Alice. It means that this is signed by Alice. Right? So very simply, if I want to provide my digital signature, what I have to do, I have to encrypt that document by my private key. That's enough. That proves that I have done the signature. I have done the encryption because I know my private key. No one else in this world knows this. So that's why it proves that. But in this case, there may be certain questions. So, for example, suppose, okay, maybe this one may not be. Okay, so before that, I have to talk about hash. So let me talk about hash, and then I will come back to this slide. Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
So sorry to interrupt in between. Just I have a question. Like, if we forget our private key, can we recover it from public key?
Okay. Okay. No. Mm,
So then, what is
no,
the
it's
process?
not possible
Then,
because you know that if you can recover your private key from public key, so anyone in the world knows your public key. So anyone in the world can recover your private key, right? So it is not possible. It is
then
not
any
possible.
technique? Then
Yeah,
any
technique is that okay. So only thing is that you cannot do anything with that in that scenario. What you have to do, you can follow the algorithm once again, and you can generate another copy of private key public key pair. Another
So,
copy
sir,
means not the copy of the previous one. Another private key public key pair, different from the previous one, and you
okay.
use the new one. So it's up to you. If you want that different, maybe you can have 5 pairs of private key public key pair. So you have to follow the algorithm 5 times. If you forget one private key, forget about that. You generate your new private key public key pair following the same algorithm.
Sir, is there a limit of generating those keys?
No. There is no limit. You can generate as many as you want.
Okay,
So just you have to follow the algorithm.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, sir. Okay.
Okay. And that is the main, I would say that attractive feature in Bitcoin also. As I told, in Bitcoin, you should be identified by use. You know that it's not your real identity. You should be known by your hash of the public key, right? So I do not know XYZ. I know the hash of the public key of XYZ. That will be used in the system. So XYZ can have so many different public key. So that's why XYZ can have more than one addresses. So for example, beauty of this one is that suppose I have one pair of private key public key pair, and for that public key I have applied hash function, and then I get some result that is being considered as my address. So any transaction is being is occurring in the network using that address. So using that address, I can get some cryptocurrency. I can transfer some cryptocurrency to others by using that address. After 1 year, I observed that people are trying to infer that who I am from that address. It may happen that if you find in the Bitcoin that in this address so many transactions is happening, so you can infer something. Okay, this person may be some rich person, or this person may be the CEO of a company, or this person may be some kind of this kind of person. So you can infer some information about that person, although you don't know the real identity, but you can infer something. So maybe for 1 year I have used one hash of the public key, and after 1 year I suspect that maybe my real identity is exposed. Maybe people have inferred something about my real identity. So let's do one thing. I can ignore that address. I can generate a new private key public key pair, and I can use the hash of this new public key as the new address. And then again, after 5 months, if I think that no, I do not use this one, I would use another address. So I can generate another public key private key pair. So it's up to in the hand of user. And even user can use multiple addresses at the same time also. Okay, to avoid this, to ensure this anonymity. Okay, so now that's very important thing is that hashing, and you will get this hashing all the time in Bitcoin blockchain technology. So now, what is hashing? Hashing is nothing but just mathematical function. And this function will map from domain to codomain. And here you can find what is the domain. Domain is nothing but string of any size. String of any size. Okay, so you take string of any length, apply this function, you get the output of fixed length. So that's why, suppose your output length is 256 bits only, 256 bits. So how many possible elements are there in the output codomain? 2 to the power 256, right? That is fixed. But your input domain size is very large, very large. There can be so many elements. So that is the purpose, that you apply the hash function, you map your input to the output, fixed size output. And the most important thing is that this function should be very efficient. That means the time complexity should be, that means a linear order of n. It should be very efficient. It should not take much time to get your hash value. Okay, so this is called hash function. Now, one example is that suppose you have this string as the input. Now your hash function can be defined as modular operation mod 26. So what will happen if you apply your hash function? You convert it into numerical representation, apply your mod, and then you get this. So it has, so you give this string, you will get only one alphabet. And maybe I assume that this is P. I don't know what is the at 15th place the character can be, any alphabet can be, maybe for example P. Okay, so now you can find, you apply this hash function, you will get fixed size output, and that is called hash value. But here is the problem, that there could be situation that you can consider two different inputs, but they will give you same output. So although inputs are different, but you can get same hash value for different inputs. This is called collision. And collision is obvious because you are taking very big input domain, but your output domain is completely fixed size. So it is obvious, it is immediate to say that there must be at least two elements that will map to single element. There must be two different elements that will map to single element here. So therefore, collision must occur. Two can map to same element. Another property of hash function is that avalanche property. So in this case, if I consider these two inputs, you can find what is the difference in these two inputs. Only here is V, here is U. But when I apply hash function, the hash value is like that. So although in the input I have changed very minor, that means the changes is very minor change, but output differs significantly, right? So this is called avalanche property. So it means if I try to modify the content of my message little bit, it can be reflected in the output significantly. So this hash function can be used to verify the integrity of your message. So if any attacker tries to modify anything very little, but your hash can show that changes. Okay, so that's why whenever you receive some message anytime, so immediately you can find that that message is associated with hash value. So your MD5 hash of your message is this one. So that hash value can be associated with. So if attacker wants to modify the content of your message, the hash value will be changed and you can detect it. So that's why what happens, suppose you are storing your data in the Google Drive or in Dropbox, that kind of cloud storage, but you don't know attacker can modify your data, right? Because through cloud you are sharing your data with your friends or a group of people you are sharing with. So anyone can modify the content of your original data. So what you do, you store your data, but at the same time you store the associated hash value also by applying hash function. If any attacker wants to modify, then the hash value also will be changed. So therefore, anytime you can detect if any kind of message tamper happens or not by attacker. So these are the various properties. Given input, you can get the hash value by applying hash function, and it is efficient one. But it is one-way function. You cannot get back the original message. So if I give you the hash value, you cannot get back the original message. There can be collision that I have already told, but if I give you this input and the corresponding output, it is infeasible to get infeasible. Okay, practically infeasible. Practically infeasible. I'm not talking about impossible. It may be possible, but practically infeasible to get another input which will give you the same hash value. Or if I give you only hash value, it will be infeasible practically to get two different inputs that will have same hash value. So collision detection will be very difficult in practice. Now let me very quickly go through two popular algorithms. But although MD5 is a popular algorithm, but nowadays it is not used because it is a quite weak algorithm in terms of security. So maybe I may go through very quickly. So what will happen, that suppose you want to compute the hash value of this whole message, your original message. So what you have to do, you have to make the length of your message integer multiple of 512 bits. So if it is not integer multiple of 512 bits, so you have to append some other bits to make it integer multiple of 512 bits. So what you have to do, you have to add 64 bits that will represent the length of the original message, and the remaining bits you just append with this 1 followed by 0 bits. After adding all these bits, so your original message along with all these bits information, the total length now will become multiples of 512 bits. Okay, so you can compute. So suppose you know that multiple of 512 bits means maybe 4 into 512. 4 into 512. So it is about 2048, right? But your original message is, for example, 2048. So your original message may be 1800. So there is some remaining bits to be appended. So you can append it this way, and after appending, the total length will become multiples of 512 bits. So then what you can do, this one you can divide into blocks of 512 bits. So if you make it 4 into 512 bits, so you can divide into 4 different blocks, and each block will have 512 bits. Now you follow this process. So you have some constant value, it is constant. You apply, you take first block, apply some function, whatever result you are getting, take the second block, apply this function, again take, and finally you get your hash value. So this is called MD. So this is the MD5 algorithm, and this algorithm, or I would say hash computation function. Okay, the MD5 is hash function. Now, as I told, take the input, take the first block, compute something, whatever result you are getting, second one, and then finally you are getting this result, and this is your hash value. And this hash value will have fixed size 128 bits. And now if you look into this that operation, then you find there will be 4 different rounds, and in every round you have to perform 16 operations. Okay, so in every, there are 4 rounds, 16 operation, 4 rounds, 16 operation, 4 rounds, 16 operation. And now, so as I told that this is the fixed constant. So this is nothing but this one. So this one. Okay, and every block you have 512, you can divide into 16 word. Your 512 block can be divided into 16. So here, this is the operation. So maybe it will be very difficult to get the whole idea. I'm trying to give you the whole idea, the high level idea, and the detail you can read if you wish to have all the information. So here you can find that you have one round. Sorry, this is the one round. Sorry. I'm talking about this one. So here you have to follow 4 rounds. In the first round, you apply this function here. In the second round, apply this function. In the third round, apply this function. And in the fourth round, apply this function. So 4 rounds should follow these 4 functions here. And these, whenever you are in the first round, you are applying this first function, you do it 16 times. Why 16 times? Because you have to take 16 inputs, MI, M1, M2, M3, M4 up to M16. So that M16 is nothing but your 51 bits. The block is being divided into 16 different words. And that 16 different words, you have to take 16 times to perform this. Okay, and this way you can get your hash value. But this is really weak, and therefore a better algorithm is the secure hash algorithm, SHA. And although initially it has been introduced in 1993, but very weak, then its next version was introduced. That was also not used today because it is also weak. So its second family, that SHA-2 family, this one currently people are using. And in Bitcoin, you can find that SHA-256, this algorithm is being used, 256. Okay, so now today I will talk about SHA-512, but 256 also similar to that. But I have the information on 512, and the overall structure also same as MD5 that I have shown now just now. What is the difference in SHA-512? You can find the difference is that if I compare the difference is that here every block, the whole message is being divided into blocks of 512. So maybe I can, okay. So that I can tell this way. So here you can find every block, your message will be divided into blocks of 512. But in this case, your message will be divided into blocks of 1024 bits. This is the difference. Okay, 1024 bits. This is the first difference. Second difference, here the initial vector is having 128 bit because the final output should have, the hash value will have 128 bits length. In this case, the initial one, the initial that vector, it has length 512. Okay, it has 128, but it has 512. Another difference is that in every phase, you have to perform 4 rounds and 16 operation, right? 4 rounds and 16 operation in every round. So in this case, here you have to follow 80 rounds only. 80 rounds. You take the block of size 1024, You take the initial vector and then you apply 80 rounds. Whatever output you get, you just XOR it once again, get this one, and go to the next block. Apply the same, do the same thing, and finally whatever you are getting, it will be of length 512 bits. The final output, that is final hash value, will be of 512 bits. So these are the difference. Okay, so I'm talking about here 80 rounds. So you can find there are 80 rounds. So now from your actual block, you should have 80 different words. So as like here, you know that you should have 16 rounds, 16 operations. So 16 words will be there, 16 words. So you, from your message, you have to get 16 words. But here, from your message, you have to get 80 words. So these 80 words can be obtained this way. I'm not telling in detail because of interest of time, but you can go through. So by following this some computation, you can generate 80 such words so that you can apply 80 times the rounds. Okay, so this is the overall idea of hash function. So hash function can be seen as the digest of a message. So your message can have very big size. You can apply hash function, you can get a digest of your message of fixed size. So Bitcoin uses SHA-256. So the hash value is 256 size. Now going back to this one. So in case of digital signature, whenever I am used, so it's very clear that whenever I want to do some kind of sign, I have to apply the encryption with my private key, and that's my signature, digital signature. And whenever you download many things, maybe online, maybe other document, maybe your some DigiLogic or no sorry DigiLocker, that you can download your documents, maybe educational certificates, maybe driving license, maybe PAN card, whatever you download from there, DigiLocker, you can get that it is digitally signed by someone. Okay, so those are digitally actually signed. So digital signature is there. Now the question is that if I do digital signature, but if I am sending some kind of binary data, so I am sending binary data to you, maybe I can apply some kind of encryption, doesn't matter. But whenever you are decrypting, after decryption, you are getting binary data. So from this binary data, it will be very difficult to know whether there is any kind of modification or tampering during the transmission by any attacker or not. So to identify if there is any kind of modification in the message, that means to ensure the integrity of your message, what you have to use? You have to use hash function. Second question, what if you do not want to hide the message, but you want a signature? Okay, if you do not hide the message, but you want a signature, so do not encrypt your whole message and apply your signature differently. No need to encrypt the whole message, but apply the signature differently. And another question can be, that public key encryption is very slow, so that's why can we apply some kind of symmetric encryption to make it more efficient? So let's see how we can get this answer. What we can do, suppose Alice is going to send one message to Bob. So at the same time, what Alice wants, Alice doesn't want to encrypt this message. Okay, so the last one, what if I don't know, if I don't want to hide the message? So Alice doesn't want to hide the message, but Alice wants to send this message along with the signature, digital signature. And at the same time, it should be identified that there is no modification or tamper happened in the message. So integrity is same. So now what Alice can do? Alice will generate the hash, apply some hash function, as I told before. And that hash function can be digitally signed. by Alice. It means that the hash value whatever obtained, that hash value can be encrypted by Alice's private key, and that can be sent to Bob together, the original message as well as the signed hash. What Bob will do? Bob will extract the hash okay. Bob will extract the hash, and whatever signed hash obtained from Alice, it is encrypted by Alice's private key, so Bob can decrypt it by using Alice's public key, and Bob will check if they match or not. If they match, then of course there is no temperation during the transmission. The content of the message is correct, and this is digitally signed by Alice, so this can be verified by Bob that this message is being signed by Alice. And at the same time, the content is not hidden, it's public. So okay, but if Alice wants to hide this data also during transmission, so what to be done? And at the same time, since the asymmetric key, so in this case Alice wants to encrypt this message because of confidentiality, but at the same time Alice also wants to use some kind of symmetric key algorithm because of that is efficient, because asymmetric key algorithm is not efficient one. So in this case, how to use that symmetric key algorithm? So what Alice can do, Alice can generate one session key, random session key, and that session key can be encrypted. Suppose Bob is the, so there is considered two different users. Okay, so actually Bob and Charles, two different users are there, so Alice is going to send this one to both. So that's why the key will be generated, one random key will be considered by Alice, symmetric key, that will be encrypted by Bob's public key, that will be encrypted by Charles' public key, and that will be sent to Bob and Charles. So Bob and Charles can easily decrypt this one using his public key. Charles can also decrypt this one using his private key. Bob can decrypt using private key, Charles also can decrypt using private key, and can get those keys. Now what Alice has done, the similar way Alice creates this hash, and the hash is digitally signed and the digital signature is sent. But since Alice doesn't want to make it, Alice wants to hide it, so Alice has to encrypt it. So what Alice has done, Alice follows some symmetric key algorithm by using that session key and sent it to Bob and Charles. So after Bob and Charles, after they get, what they will do? Suppose it is Bob. So after Bob gets the key, after Bob gets a encrypted key, Bob can decrypt it by using his own private key. So after key is being obtained, Bob can decrypt by following symmetric key. And then after getting the original message, Bob can compute the hash. And since this is digitally signed by Alice, so Bob can also decrypt it by using Alice's public key. And they can, and Bob can check this too. If they match, then everything is perfect. Okay, so in this case, you can find the confidentiality is being maintained. The integrity also is being maintained. These signature also verified. Authenticity of this message also verified based on the digital signature. Also, the encryption is being done by following symmetric key algorithm to improve the performance. Okay, so this way the system can be. Okay, so most of the things are clear that in blockchain, asymmetric key cryptography will be used. There should be digital signature to be used, and also hash value will be used in most of in all these in blockchain technology. Okay, but remember, whatever I have told about RSA algorithm for asymmetric key, actually that is not used in blockchain. Usually asymmetric key cryptography is being used, but it doesn't follow RSA algorithm. It follows some kind of elliptic key elliptic curve cryptography. So now it's 4 o'clock. I don't know, if you want I can tell it now, but if I don't tell it now, it's also okay. You can understand some elliptic curve cryptography, but follows the same asymmetric key cryptography is used in blockchain technology. Okay. Yes. So any question? But if you want, I can tell about this elliptic curve cryptography. That's up to you. Yeah, Professor Singh. Yeah.
Sir, please continue, sir.
Okay. So I can tell it very quickly, huh? Okay. So now I am moving towards that. I am going to say about asymmetric key cryptography, but it follows some elliptic curve. It is not RSA algorithm. Okay, in RSA algorithm that follows different algorithmic steps. But let's move to elliptic curve cryptography. In this case, one elliptic curve. This is the equation of elliptic curve. Okay, and x, y, those are the variables, and a, b constant. But remember that a and b will have these restriction. They should satisfy these things. Okay, so if this is an elliptic curve, and when I draw this graph, I can find this kind of graph. And in this graph, the graph is being drawn by following different a and b. So if a and b is this, the graph will be of this form. If a and b is this, graph will be of this form. So you can find different. So by varying this graph, a and b also, the graph structure will be changed. But a common property of all these graphs is that this is symmetric along the x-axis. So if I draw x-axis is here, so you can find the graph is symmetric along x-axis. Okay, symmetric along x-axis. Now, the problem here is that what I want to achieve, maybe I can open the one pane, otherwise I cannot. So suppose I have this elliptic curve. I don't know, maybe this is the elliptic curve. This is x-axis. Now, suppose this is my one point. Okay, this point is P. And if I multiply this point by, for example, I take 23, okay, 23 scalar value, and I multiply 23 with P. So if I multiply this point with 23, it will give me another point, suppose Q. It will give me Q. Okay. Now, if I make it public, so if you know Q, you know Q, and you also know P. I make this two maybe public. All of you know the value of P and the value of Q. For you, although you know P and Q, but it would be very difficult to know 23. This is called discrete logarithm problem. Okay, so the strength of this algorithm basically based on this. So I can make P and Q public, and I can make 23 as the private. So here I can consider 23 as my private key. And I can make this one as my public key. So this is the asymmetric key algorithm. So private key, public key pair. Okay, that is the main aim. So why I am going to going for this elliptic curve cryptography? Why not I am using RSA algorithm? Because both are following the same. But the problem is that in RSA algorithm, whatever private public key pair you are going to consider, the key size, sorry, maybe I can write once again, the key. So here, if you follow RSA algorithm, the strength, the security strength that you achieve by following a key of this length, the same security strength you can achieve by elliptic curve cryptography by very small size key, small key. So if you follow n, the size of the key is n, to achieve some security in RSA algorithm, the same level of security you can gain here, but with the key size less than n. So that's why I can use very small size key here, yet I can achieve much security strength in elliptic curve cryptography. That's why people mostly prefer elliptic curve cryptography because of key size. Because you can see that key size is nothing but the point on the elliptic curve. Okay, that is the main goal. So now that I told that if I give you P and Q, it would be very difficult to find that scalar value, and that is the main goal. So now, whenever I am talking about that, you know that every point, any point you take, you have to multiply with any scalar value, you have to get another point. So if you multiply, so this multiplication can have different operations. So how can I express this multiplication? I can express this way. You see, I can express this way. So I will first double it, then again double it. So it will be 4p plus 1p, 5p. Again I double it. So 20, 5, 10p, 11p, 22p plus 1p, 23p. So now you can understand. So here the basic operations are addition and doubling. So these two are basic operations. So how those operations can be performed? The addition can be done that you draw a line, j and k, you are adding these two, you draw a line and it will intersect with other points in the graph, that and you take the symmetric the reverse one on the other side of the x-axis, it will be the result. But in some case you may not get the it may not intersect na, in this case. These and these points can be considered as the plus j and minus j. If you draw a line between these two, because you are going to add these 2 points, it never intersects with any other points in the graph. So in that case, you can consider theoretically that the intersection happens in infinity. So any point in the infinity can be considered as the result. And as you know, this result will give you identity, because you are just adding a point with its inverse, so it will give you identity. So you can consider the identity is in the infinity. Okay, so this is the addition operation. In case of doubling operation, what you have to do, you take one point, you have to do doubling. So you just draw a tangent, it will intersect with other point, you take the inverse one, it will be the result. But whenever you consider this as the point for which you are going to apply doubling, you find you draw a tangent but it never intersects. So therefore you can consider the result will be in the infinity. Okay, so now what is the main purpose? So let me give you just the final thing, how I can encrypt and decrypt using this elliptic curve cryptography. This is the final thing that I can, maybe I can open another one. Okay, so here suppose this is the elliptic curve cryptography. Suppose you have one elliptic curve cryptography, whatever, okay, and all the points on the elliptic curve cryptography all the points on the elliptic curve cryptography, you consider the point is E. E is the set of all points. Okay, so E is the points of all points. Now, if E is all points of the elliptic curve cryptography and we are dealing with these points, so what, suppose this is Alice and this is Bob. What Alice will do? Alice will consider a secret number S Alice. This is suppose N1. Okay, maybe I can say that NA. Bob will also consider 1 because this elliptic curve is you know that globally known to everyone. There is no issue. But Bob will also consider 1 secret. Sorry, this is Bob. Suppose NB for Bob. Now, what Alice will do? There is one generator. You know that one generator, I can call it G. So actually, yeah, I should consider it capital G, maybe the good one. Capital G is the generator, and if this generator is being multiplied with, so this generator will help you to generate all the points on the elliptic curve. So this generator, if you this is 1 point on the elliptic curve, if you multiply with 2G, it will give you another point. If you multiply with 3G, it will give you another point. So this is called generator that will generate all the points on the elliptic curve. So this generator is also known globally. Everyone knows all the points. Everyone knows the generator of this elliptic curve. So what Alice will do? Alice will multiply this NA with this elliptic curve, generator, and whatever result it will get, this is public key of Alice. So this will be the secret key, this will be the public key. Similarly, this will be the secret key of Bob, and public key of Bob will be NB into G. Okay, now up to this point, suppose now Alice wants to send one message M. Now what Alice will do, this M will be encoded into a point on the elliptic curve. So this message can be encoded into the form of a point on the elliptic curve. Suppose this can be encoded into a point on the elliptic curve, and I can say that this is the point M. Okay, so this is the message that has been encoded into the point on the elliptic curve. Now when Alice will send the this information to Bob, what Alice will do? Alice will send these two information. One is KG. So just a minute, KG. Another is PM plus KPB. Okay, this is the ciphertext. So Alice will use, see, G is totally public, right? So Alice will use G. PM is the message that Alice wants to send. PB is the public key of Bob, that is also known to everyone. Now what is K? This is random value that Alice will consider. This is random value Alice will consider. So now you can find that G will be multiplied by this random value. So it will represent 1 point on the elliptic curve, and the public key of Bob is being multiplied with K, that will represent another point on the elliptic curve, and that has been added with the point that the message representing. So everything is nothing but the point on the elliptic curve. So if this is the ciphertext to be sent to Bob, what Bob will do now? After receiving this ciphertext, Bob will do something like that. Bob will Bob will take the second component. Maybe I can just check. Yeah, Bob will consider the second component first. Okay, Bob takes second component, the value of the second component. Okay, so this is the value. It is nothing but this one, this point. This point Bob will take, and Bob will negate. So Bob will take the first component, and Bob will multiply its own private key. What is the private key? NB. So Bob will multiply the private key with the first component and we subtract. So what is the final result? Let's see. It is nothing but PM plus K. What is PB? PB is nothing but NB into G minus KG. So it will be removed. So this is nothing but PM. So Bob will get PM. So therefore, there is decoding method. Through PM is nothing but this point on the network, on the graph. So by decoding, Bob will get back M. So this is the asymmetric key cryptography based on elliptic curve cryptography, and that is being used in the Bitcoin. Okay. So now we are done for today's session. Thank you. So if you have now any questions, we can discuss, or if we have time.
Sir, your presentation was very illustrative, sir. So it's our request, please share your PPTs with the organizer so that after the day ends we can get the PPTs, sir.
Okay, sure. Or maybe another possibility is that recording is being done. Anyway, I'll discuss with, I'll talk with
Sir, in the recording, sir, it won't be clearly, I mean, it
Okay,
will
no
be a bit
problem.
hazy. Better to share the PPTs. We can take notes and help
Okay,
help also
sure,
with
sure.
further reference.
Sir,
Thank
I
you.
have a question.
Yes,
Sir, I
yes.
have a question. Sir, in this elliptic curve cryptography, you gave us an equation in the beginning which had a cubic. So,
Yes.
is this an ellipse or is it
No.
projection of an ellipse in something
Yeah,
else?
actually, you know that it is not same as ellipse. It's different from ellipse.
Okay.
Although cubic is there, but it is different from ellipse. But because of elliptic curve, this term actually there is no relation actually.
Oh,
Okay, it is different from ellipse actually.
Oh, but you said that G is a generator, which is again it is a characteristic of an ellipse, isn't it? But
okay.
But it's a cubic, you're saying. But it's a cubic. Okay.
Yeah,
It's
a cubic.
in X. It's
It has
cubic in X, but it's quadratic in Y.
Exactly, it is quadratic. Yeah, it has cubic.
Weird curve. It's a bit weird, the curve.
Right. But it is different from ellipse actually.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Right. I don't have much information about that, but yes, it is different from ellipse. That I know.
Yeah. Okay. I just noted that it was a cubic, so I was just wondering about why it's such a weird curve. Nothing else, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Any another questions from participants? No. So okay. Thank you very much, sir, for a nice session. And for participants tomorrow also, sir will continue and sir will take all the sessions. And tomorrow, sir will show the hands-on sessions also. Okay. So be on time. Tomorrow we will meet. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. So one request that that I have mentioned, that tomorrow the afternoon session, can I start at maybe 4 o'clock, or that means I have another meeting actually that I cannot. So if I can shift the second session, I mean second half session, little bit.
Yes, tomorrow. It is actually a request that tomorrow sir has some important meeting. So lecture cannot be scheduled from 2:30 to 4 o'clock. So meeting will end by 4 o'clock. So sir will continue immediately from 4 o'clock. Okay. So tomorrow the last session will be from 4 o'clock to 5:30.
Okay, sir. No issue, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.